You're listening to Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. Comics, television, movies, and more. If it impacts fan culture, we have something to say about it. And now, your hosts, Jordan, Cliff, and Seth.
Welcome back, y'all. It's Ka-Pow, the pop culture podcast. We're glad to have you. My name is Jordan Lowe.
Y'all. Cliff Barnes.
I'm Seth.
Jesse's back.
Y'all. Jesse's, he's back.
I'm back, ladies
Let's
and gentlemen.
just tell people when he's not here.
Yeah.
How about we just start announcing
Just
him?
assume otherwise.
I missed you guys. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. Hey, I'm a big fan.
There it is.
Happy November. We're nearing the holiday months. How about it? Some fun stuff cooking for that.
I've been talking about Thanksgiving at work, and everybody's like, what the hell are you talking about?
We're gearing up.
They were like, why are you talking about Thanksgiving? I was like, never mind. What are you talking about? Yeah. So, big stuff happening, guys.
Yeah.
Be there or be square at some point in November. There you go. So, we're on the road again. Me and Cliff went to the Cincinnati Comic Expo on October 20th.
In
Not
Sharonville.
in Cincinnati.
I tried to find a reason to go, and they didn't want me to. They tried at every turn to say, nope.
So this is not a big show. It's not a ton of celebs. Nobody to get a shield signed by.
But could have walked around with it.
Yeah. So part of the reason it's the Duke Center in downtown Cincinnati is under renovation for the next 2 years. So they had to move it to a smaller location in Sharonville. But luckily that is north of Cincinnati, so it cut off some of our drive time. We didn't have to go
Thank God.
quite as far.
Would have added another 3 hours. Yeah. I went to this show a couple years ago. Jordan and I did. That was the first time I'd been there. Seth went last year. And so it was my turn again this year. And it was I liked the venue. It was a little choppy because it was so much smaller. It wasn't that standard convention space, I guess, but for
several rooms, like they're big rooms, but there were several rooms and hallways and nooks and crannies, and they had tables stuck in every corner you could fit them in, trying to make up that space. But it didn't feel crowded, like especially Sunday. The crowds weren't bad. There wasn't much time you couldn't get down the aisle or whatever. But
the weird thing was the room with the celebrities was enormous. And it felt like there was nobody in that room. But the other areas were smaller. And so, especially where all the artists and things were, it felt at times, a little cramped in there. Much smaller aisles and spaces.
So we got there. It was only about 3 hour and 15-minute drive, not too shabby. We got there right before 10, so they hadn't even opened the doors yet. And they had the rope line. We had to walk 4 laps.
Switchbacks, yes.
Up and back and up and back and up and back. Like they were prepared for 1 million people to be there, and there were only a couple hundred. So we got a good couple laps in before the show even started. So I had all these plans in my head of how this was going to work. I needed to schedule it out. I knew what panel schedules were. They had announced somebody, one of the celebrities was leaving at 1 p.m. From the X-Men cartoon, and she had a panel at noon. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to get to her before noon. So I had all these ideas. Okay, if I get my poster signed first, I can roll them up and put them away. I don't have to carry them around. So I had plans, and
he's telling me all these plans on the way up, and I'm just like, okay, I have no plans.
I always have a schedule in my head of what I'm going to try to do.
Same.
So we get in there. By the time we get through the rope line, get our wristbands, we find a dealer room first. We're like, well, where's the? We went into the wrong room. It was like, oh, the celebrities are over this way. Okay. okay, it's like 10:15. We see Kevin Eastman like sitting down at his table, co-creator of the Ninja Turtles. One of the main reasons we're there. Like, oh, awesome. His line doesn't look too long. Let's go ahead and jump in line. 10:15 a.m. Well, he's got like 3 tables along the wall with him and his handlers and all his merchandise. Okay, so we walk the length. Okay, the 3 tables. Oh, the line goes out this door. Oh, the line goes down this hallway. It was already like looping around. We're like, so it's like, what do we do? Do we get in line? Like, this seems smart to get in line now, or maybe will it ever be a shorter line later? So we just called an audible and got in line right then, and it was like a little over an hour, I think, by the time we got through it.
It was a good hour and a half, to an hour and 45 minutes.
All my plans just went out the window.
Yeah, we blew the plans up.
But I think it was the right decision that the line was except when he was gone for his panel.
Yeah,
the line was never any shorter. So I feel like we did the right thing. We got the main goal accomplished there first thing in the morning. He was cool. He was a cool guy.
Yeah, he you had to wait in line for a long time, and I told Jordan this on that day. But like when we finally got up there, it was nice. It was well organized, but yet he managed to. He didn't just take your money, sign, and 2 seconds you're done and through the line. He was taking a moment with everybody there. If you wanted a picture, a selfie, whatever, he was doing it all right there and talking and engaging with all the fans as he's doing it. So it was nice once you finally got up there. You didn't feel like you were just, shuffled through
another piece of meat.
Right. Yeah. So that was cool. And, I mean, yeah, it was a good experience. So Jordan got more than I did. He got the shelfie.
Yeah, I paid for the shelfie.
Ooh, what's that?
That's a selfie with him. Turtle branded selfie.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I said to him,
I saw you in the back though, Cliff. You seemed to manage to get your money's worth.
Yeah. Didn't cost me an extra dime at all.
Yeah.
I thought that Cliff always seems to land heads up.
So I said I'm an indie. I'm a writer and indie publisher myself. I said, so you've been an inspiration for most of my life. I've looked up what you and a couple of friends were able to accomplish on your own.
See, Jesse, you want to talk about how that movie reminded you of me? I like to feel like I've influenced Jordan to come with a plan for these interactions. This sounds like he crafted a great moment here.
It did. It was nice.
Right.
So I said, as inspiration, and he comes back with, "Oh, what are you working on?"
Oh yeah,
my brain panics.
Oh shit!
Oh,
I wasn't prepared to answer questions. I'm asking the questions.
Don't pretend like you. Yeah, I did write this ahead of time.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Yeah. So he stopped what he was doing. He's like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And I said, "I was like, most recent thing we're doing is and I pitched this book. So Pro Comics is working on right now." And I said, it's about a punk band that ends up in rural West Virginia at a gig and ends up being full of vampires. And he takes a second. He goes, when you think every idea's already been done, but sometimes I got a.
He thought about it.
Yes, I got a thumbs up from Kevin Eastman that something is a novel original idea. Like,
nice.
See, I love it.
So by that point, it feels like I'm way behind in everything I wanted to get done. Like I said, these shows you want to hit, as much as you can early, so you're, in case something.
But you also you want to get the. Trust me, I know, baby. You want to get the multitudes, but then you're also like, but none of those are going to matter if you don't get the big one. So you made the right decision, I think. Once you got that mark on your belt, you're like, okay, if I miss some of the riffraff, I'm all right.
So the panel for the X-Men 97 voice actors was at noon, and I thought I'm not going to do it. I got too much other stuff to do. So I'm skipping lunch. I felt bad.
No green beans? What'd they have this year?
I don't even know.
Green
We
beans
didn't even look. Yeah.
I did get a pop at some point to get a little caffeine in me, but
Okay.
yeah. So if I'd known the future, I probably would have got something to eat because getting home was a trip.
It was
Yeah.
a battle.
So anyway, again, it's a small con. There wasn't a ton to do, but I still had that pressure of like, there's stuff I'm gonna miss. So we go straight from there to the celebrity room, and none of the X-Men people were at their tables. I think they had already gone to their panel. So I'm like, I probably missed this rogue actress. All right, well, again, what are you gonna do? So I go to Dr. Peter Weller, our RoboCop. Logan, Ka-Pow Logan reminded me you have to call him Dr. Weller. He has a doctorate in like Renaissance art. He teaches college classes on Italian Renaissance paintings and stuff. So he is a doctor. So yeah, that Logan, we had invited him, and he was thinking about going, but he wasn't able to. Which, you know, RoboCop is his favorite movie of all time. We know he.
Why wasn't he able to? Is this a woman problem? Police
He was in
problem?
Cleveland like 2 nights before at a playoff game.
Yeah, it was at the Guardians game.
Yeah,
I
I think he spent all his fun money going to the playoffs.
Well, I respect that. That's good. That's the best excuse I ever heard.
So I was in line for a little bit for him. He was talking to these people, a couple ahead of me were, you know, talking about, I don't know, they had a mutual friend or something, and they were talking, and he ended up giving him a free photo to give to somebody I couldn't quite make out. And then the guy ahead of me wasn't going to buy anything. He just wanted to meet him. And the lady running his line, she was a RoboCop herself. She was like, stand there, dude. She was like real firm with these people. And she's like, okay, but you know, there's a line, so you got to make it quick. And this was a interesting gentleman. I was like, my grandpa 100 years ago was a policeman in Chillicothe. Like he was telling Peter Weller about his ancestor cop or whatever. He's like, oh really? Where are you from? And like he was engaging with the guy too. And he kind of snapped his fingers and gave him a free photo. So I was like, wow, this guy's giving free photos out to everybody. So I didn't get one, but
I didn't get one, but
Cliff would.
I would have. I should have got mine. I should have.
Cliff was in the back of that guy's photo.
Yeah.
All right, so Jesse, you watched the RoboDoc documentary.
Yes, I did.
About the making of RoboCop. I just want to get your opinion. Would you have labeled the making of RoboCop as a miserable experience?
Oh.
From him being in makeup for 6 hours and bolted into the suit, the director screaming at everyone, the
objection,
not talking,
leading the witness.
Not talking to the writers, everyone's fighting, explosions are going off that are way too big, squibs that are way too powerful are hurting people, people are getting injured, and would you call that a miserable
it definitely wouldn't be pleasant. It definitely would not be pleasant. Okay.
Well, Peter Weller might not have argued with you then.
It would have been an experience, but I would have loved to have heard what he had to say.
So my plan was to say to him, you know, that sounded like a miserable experience, but everyone in that documentary seemed to have loved being in it. They talked about the history of it and how proud they are of being a part of it, what it's meant to them and their careers. And like, they're all really from the director to the writer to the producer to the caterers, they're all proud of that movie. So that was what I was going to tell him. You know, it looked like a miserable experience, but it's so cool how everyone's still so proud of it.
But so this was not a day for Jordan's plans.
Oh my goodness. Oh no.
So I said, oh, I just watched the RoboDoc documentary. He's like, oh, that was fun, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, it was interesting. You got to talk to everybody, blah, blah. And I said, and I'm sure it was a miserable experience. And he's like, no. He's like, I wasn't miserable, no. I was like, well, yeah. He's like, no, I wouldn't say miserable. Off.
Where did he?
So at least 4 times he was like, no, not miserable. No, I wouldn't say miserable. So I was like, I couldn't get to the good part. I started with the bad part. He wouldn't let me get to the good part.
Later, he's like, can you believe this guy had the freaking nerve to come up to me?
One of the biggest movies I'm known for, like ever, and calls it a miserable experience.
What a jerk.
Yeah, Jordan's
back to blue.
Jordan's 8x10 says, to the guy that did not like RoboCop.
So I finally said, like, It's like, well, I guess you got to suffer for your art. He's like, there you go. That's what you got to do. You got to suffer for your art. So we finally met in the middle. He forgave me. So I got a signature. I'd found an old photo variant cover from one of the books that came out 20 years ago. It was a photo of him. So I got that signed. And I went ahead and got Logan an 8x10 signed because I thought, I don't know
Nice.
if either of us would ever have that chance again. So I just went ahead and got him that. He was very appreciative of it. He really liked it. So yeah, then we got back to some of the comics, folks.
Well,
Matt Wagner.
I will say this before we get to Matt Wagner.
Oh, okay.
While Jordan was doing that, I was just waiting, standing around. I'd gotten, we went through
doing photo bombing.
Yes,
just
around
he got
the
three
room,
other photos
around the room.
What's going on?
He's like, here's my number. Here's my number. Send me that back. Here's my number.
And while Jordan was waiting in that line for RoboCop, I went over to the booth where the rogue lady was supposed to be, and I asked to volunteer, and I was like, hey, I guess she's at a panel right now. I'm like, is she going to come back and be available before, or is it done and over with? And she's like, yeah, she's going to be back. Like, it'll probably be about quarter till, probably be really brief. She just has to pack her stuff up. She's like, but maybe if, if you wait around here and you might get lucky. And I was like, okay. So, cause I knew Jordan, that was one Jordan needed. So I went back and told Jordan that, and we were kind of trying to come up with a, time it just right and hit it again. So anyways, and then I stood there and I watched Lee Majors sign some stuff, and he was there, and the two women from The Mandalorian, the armor, Emily Swallow and Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan Kryze, and watched them for a little bit from a little bit of a distance, being that creeper, because I wasn't going to pay for the autograph or anything. It was a little pricey, but yeah. So anyways, after all that,
I read online that Ming-Na Wen was only there Saturday.
Yeah.
And I saw somebody say something about waiting 2 hours in line for her. So
Wow.
That would have been even worse.
That's almost Kevin.
So yeah,
Eastman.
like I said, it wasn't super crowded, so you could kind of go back and forth and check lines, and so that was positive. So yeah, we went back to where the comic pros were. Matt Wagner. I got 2 of my posters signed, including my brand new Green Arrow poster. So I was hyped about that. Cliff had a couple comics, some Green Arrows.
Yes, the kind of like the painted look covers. I think I got 3 or 4 of those signed by him, which was cool. He was talking to somebody else. We kind of had to wait for a minute, but yeah, he was super nice and happy to do so.
And then I met David Michael Beck, who's actually local to Cincinnati. He did a ton of G.I. Joe art. The Image G.I. Joe series I collected. He did like a painting for every back cover, like super detailed, realistic painting. So I got a G.I. Joe sign from him. But he was a little distracted. I felt bad. He was forming a search party for Bart Sears at the moment.
Yeah.
Because Bart Sears had been missing for a while. He went to lunch and never came back. So he's like, he was talking to, I don't know, security or volunteers or whoever. Yeah. I'm like, are you signing? He's like, I'm trying to find Bart Sears.
Yeah, we had seen Bart Sears as we were in line for Eastman. Because I was like, he was just sitting around. There was nobody there at his booth at the time, and besides him, and I was, we were right there, feet from him. I was like, well, do I pull my stuff out and Jordan can stand here in line and I'll run over here and get signed, and we can take turns while we're waiting on Eastman, but we decided not to. But then when we went back, he was gone, and nobody knew where he went or could find him. So for a little while,
he apparently had a headache or was feeling kind of sick, so he took a long lunch. But we finally got something signed from him. Then Rogue was at her table finally. So Lenore Zahn performed as Rogue in the 90s show and X-Men 97. Classic voice. So all right, what do I got to say to these X-Men actors? I was like, I know, I'll come up with something original. So I said, I've been reading X-Men comics my whole life, but you're still the voice I hear when I read the books. So you're still Rogue to me. And she came back with, "Oh, that's what I always say. I'm living rent free in your head." Ha ha ha. We had a good laugh. And then the guy behind me stepped up to his autograph, and he goes, I was gonna say the same thing." So I was like, everyone must say that to these people. So she already had a response. Everyone's gonna say that. You're the voice I hear. Okay, I'm not original whatsoever. All right.
Does she not have a board game strategy?
But the rest of the X-Men, Beast, George Buzza, he seemed half asleep, so I didn't have real in-depth conversation with him. And then Storm, Allison Seeley Smith, was just this adorable gray-haired lady, and I said, "Do you ever break out that voice to get like a table at a restaurant or anything? That commanding voice of Storm." And she's kind of, "Oh no, never." And she but sometimes, and she kind of leaned forward, like, "But sometimes, if our friends are having a cookout or something, I'll look up in the sky and I'll say, 'Clouds, not today.'" Like she commands the weather for the cookout. Oh, that's amazing.
That's cool.
And they're
So
like,
then,
shut up.
1 o'clock rolled around, and that was Kevin Eastman's panel. We got down to that one, and it was excellent. It was one of the best panels I've been to. Like I said, all the questions were good. I've never been to a panel where every question leads to a good answer. Normally, there's people who aren't super self-aware, who ramble or ask questions like, "What are you talking about?" But everyone was good and on board, and
they
really
were thought about ahead
story.
of time.
So you could answer if I had a question, not me, someone out there. What if someone out there was like, who actually is because it says they're both the artists, who's doing all the work? What did he say? What would he say?
Well, they always just pass the boards back and forth to each other. So he wouldn't even know if he did it or Peter did it, because they both
are equally talented.
Yes, they both penciled and inked and just passed it back and forth to each other.
That sounds like a bunch of hooey.
But he had a slight that New England accent that would break out every once in a while, because he's from up there. That Harvard Yard kind of accent would slip out. I was like, I don't know what I expected, but I'm expecting New York guy. The Turtles are
New York
to the bone, and he's that New England guy.
He's like, "How do you like them apples?"
They explained why the first few issues were oversized. The original Ninja Turtles comic, because it was a mistake at the printer. They had these TV guides or whatever printed that they took in. It was like, "Can you do something like this?" And they're like, "Sure, we can." So they printed them the size of this TV magazine rather than a comic book.
Okay.
And he's like, "We can't afford to have these reprinted," so they just went with it. He split. Somebody asked how the weapons, why each turtle has each weapon. I was like, I never thought about that. But he's talking about the katana is like the weapon of a leader. The bow staff is Donatello's more like a monk, so that sort of thing. Raphael's Wolverine of the group. He's the up close fighter, and the crazy guy would use the nunchucks because only a crazy person would use nunchucks. There's just all these little stories like this. And he confirmed that the 1990 live action movie is his favorite adaptation.
Yeah.
Where he said that, they've been making cartoons, movies, video games, for years, but they're still chasing that 1990 movie. That was the closest to his version of the Turtles that there's ever been. I was like, yes, You are exactly right.
Yes.
And he even talked about the musical, the Coming Out of Their Shells tour.
Yeah.
So brought that up, and he kind of put his head in his hand.
No! Oh.
Yeah, just great stories. It was really entertaining. So we got back. That's where we went to Alan Davis's table. Classic artist, has literally worked on every book that there's ever been. So he was doing 10 free autographs just for a donation to the Heroes Fund. So just whatever you wanted to donate, that was cool. So I had 6 things to get signed, four posters and 2 comics. But I had looked ahead of time at he was charging for sketches, and I had just come into a little extra money I didn't expect. So I had free money burning a hole in my pocket. I'm like, I think I'm going to get a sketch. So Alan Davis is known. Excalibur is probably his most famous book. So I'm like, Nightcrawler is one of my favorite characters. He was the star Excalibur. That's awesome. I might just go with Nightcrawler. So I was talking to my friend Jeremy. He's like, "Yo, I met Alan Davis before." He's like, "I got a Kitty Pryde sketch way back in the day." He's like, "Oh, cool." I said, "Yeah, can I get a kitty?" He's like, "Oh, thank God it's not another Nightcrawler." So he psyched me out like a week before. I'm like, "Oh, do I even want to get a Nightcrawler?" So I had debated getting something else maybe. I thought maybe a Fantastic Four, like The Thing or something, because I like his art on Fantastic Four. But I went with the classic. I said, "I know you've done it a million times, but I'd love to get a Nightcrawler." He's like, "Sure thing." So he starts sketching. And he had a chair on the other side of the table. He's like, "Have a seat." I was like, "Oh," and I wanted to get a picture. So like he's like, "Oh yeah, take a seat." So he like made me sit down, and then he holds the book up to draw, like up to his face. So I can't see what he's doing. I'm at his level. I can't watch him draw.
I get a great view of the whole thing.
Yeah, like a line is formed.
Cliff is sitting in a director's chair, looking down at the whole thing.
So Cliff and about 6 people behind him are all watching this magic happen through his pencil, and I'm just like craning my neck, like, "Well, I don't know what's happening, but I'll sure be amazed when it's done."
Oh man,
It was the most awkward
he was
thing.
really concentrating. So I thought he wanted me to sit down and like we'll have a conversation, but like he was not even looking or thinking about me. He was just really.
He never
focused
said
on
a
drawing.
word.
Yeah.
He's been doing that his whole life like that.
Yeah.
Because every nerd doesn't say anything.
It was the best $250 of Jordan's I've ever spent.
So yeah, I love it. It's a really cool drawing. I love getting original art, especially like the guy's signature creation. Like I don't know, but that's probably what he's most known for, that character. So I was super happy to have that.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So that was about all the signatures and things we needed. So I had a little time to shop, hit some dollar bins, found some stuff I wanted in the cheap bins.
They had a lot of comics there. A lot of dollar bins with decent stuff in them.
I saw you picked up a couple of superpowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Figs.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh yeah. What'd you get there?
Yeah. Continued on. I bought I had mentioned the night before. I think it was maybe the day before. My son was over here at the house, and we were talking about something or other, and we ended up out in the laundry room where used to record the podcast and all the Star Wars and stuff's out there. And so anyways, he hadn't been out there for a little while, so we were looking through stuff, and I was showing him some new stuff and the superpower stuff and this and that, and he's like, "Oh," and I have my original Lex Luthor that went through me, through him, and at this point in time, it's missing an arm.
I don't like the way you said that. I was like, a dog ate the wedding ring.
Yeah. But it's missing an arm. He doesn't have his armor anymore.
Oh.
It's sad. And so I bought found a new Lex that was in like mint condition. Got it for like $20. And then I bought at a different booth. Guy was kind of making deals, so I bought an Aquaman from the original line, and I think I got it for $20 also. So
when is the original line from?
84.85.
84.85.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
are you trying to get those when you can, and just
I am.
Otherwise, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Or like trying to get both, like compare them, or
what I've mostly
who do you
done.
have both of?
I don't know that I do.
Oh wow. Wow.
No duplicates.
Excuse me.
I don't, not yet, because what I've been doing, I started buying the original lineup, and then I've been I've been sprinkling in some of the new ones that are completely new to the line.
Yeah,
so you can buy they have so many Superman and Batman and even some Robins and
but are they basically trying to duplicate what they were?
No, it's more of a continuation.
Okay.
Obviously they know Superman and Batman sells, so every wave has a Superman and a Batman.
Okay, yeah.
And they're repaints and some original sculpts and stuff. So I haven't gotten into those so much as I have things I didn't have. So, you know, where, of course, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold didn't exist in the original line, so I had to go out and get them, of course. And Deathstroke, Sinestro, characters like that. The old style Brainiac. I have him from like the Super Friends version from the cartoon. So, anyways, so I bought a couple of those. Bought some dollar bin stuff. Few issues here and there before we left, but yeah, it was a good show. You know, like Jordan said, I got took a couple books for Eastman to have signed. Had Jordan hooked me up with a reprint of the #1, and then I had a Turtles had a Christmas cover where they're all dressed up like Santa Claus, and I'm a big Christmas guy, I like anything Christmas themed, so I was like, oh, that's cool. And then when we'd gotten up there in line, one of the kind of handlers, he mentioned it. He's like, oh, hey, we have these in printouts here for sale too. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to get my book signed. Thanks anyways. But when I got up there, you know, Kevin Eastman, he's like, oh man, he goes, I love this one. He goes, I'm a big Christmas guy. I was like, yep, me too. You know, that was, we had a little interaction about that, which was nice. Like I said, he took time, with everybody. And then, really that was about it. It was kind of cool. So, got to see Lou Diamond Phillips. He was there, as Jordan and I were going. La Bamba Chavez from Young Guns.
True, yeah. I haven't watched Young Guns in so long. Like that brings back vivid memories. Like I remember where I was.
Yeah,
watching Young Guns.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
I told Jordan. I said he was just standing there. There was nobody really in his line as we were kind of walking by. I was like,
people don't even know.
No,
that's La Bamba.
Oh, we were in the spirit world. So that was kind of cool. I did talk to.
Were Los Lobos there?
No, I did not see them. The room could have been, you know, it was big enough for a concert. They could have held one, but
right.
But no, as Jordan was doing the RoboCop thing, I would kind of walk by, and there's a lady that was there. Her name is Margaret Cherry. She was the original. I know of her, but she was the original model the Walt Disney Company used for Tinkerbell. She was the, you know, did all the motions for them to animate the original Peter Pan movie. And I have listened to this woman on many a podcast, Disney podcast, throughout the past decade. She is 90 some years old now.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
this tiny little lady. She's the sweetest lady. She was on a couple episodes of Andy Griffith back in the day.
Well, once I'll be able to picture it. I've seen them all.
So,
what's her name again?
Margaret Cherry.
Okay. I'm immediately look at that.
So, but I've listened to her.
Big Mayberry fan.
Yeah, okay. Okay. As soon as you see her, you'll be like, oh, yep, I remember that. But anyway, she was kind of at her booth, and like I said, she's 90 some years old, and I was like, I'm not gonna pay to get an autograph or anything with her. I don't need that. But since she was sitting there, and I think maybe her granddaughter or great granddaughter was with her, kind of helping her in the booth. And so I walked by and I was like, hey, Margaret, I just want to let you know, I've listened to you on a bunch of podcasts talking about Disney and Peter Pan stuff and and this and that. And I know who you are, and I think that's really cool. You're here, whatever. And she's like, what's that?
Just what he said. He's really cool. You're here or whatever.
Yeah. No. You're not dead, you know. I'm glad you're still living. So she immediately was like, she's like, just perked up. She goes, who are you? And I'm like, I told her my name. And she's like, oh, okay. And I've listened to her on many of these podcasts, and a lot of times she doesn't really want to talk about Disney stuff or anything anymore. She just talk about life or whatever. She's a super nice lady. And she's like, well, what do you do? Where are you from?
No, wow.
And I'm trying to tell her, and she goes, you got to get closer. I've got these Costco
here we
hearing
go.
aids in.
You're the next guy yelling at her.
So yeah, I'm like up in her face, and I'm like, oh my God, why did I say anything? So I explained to her, I'm like, oh, I'm from like southeastern Ohio, across the state from here, over by West Virginia. And she's like, oh, yeah. And she's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I work for an industrial cleaning company. We clean out like silos, and when they get the discharges, talking about this nonsense. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. You never think about that. I guess somebody would have to like go in there and clean that out. And I'm just like, what am I doing right now? This is nuts.
You're having a conversation with a 90-year-old lady. That's what you're at.
90.
But the whole Tinkerbell thing is just set aside. Right now, it's just you and an elderly lady having a conversation, which is fantastic.
It really was. So
her last name's Carrie?
Cherry.
Cherry.
Yeah. Cherry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Margaret is spelled different ways, so I'm having trouble.
Ah, gotcha. But yeah, it was a fun interaction for a couple minutes, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you stopped by and said hi." And I was like, "Okay, great, like cool. I'll see you later."
That's awesome.
So that was a fun little thing that happened.
Yeah, the only real disappointment.
I think you're wrong.
Oh, you're doubting.
It says Margaret Carey, Kerry, was on the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh boy. Dueling internets going on right now.
Right. This might be the thing that ends the podcast.
Is this how we do it, Jesse?
This is it. I'm ready. I'm glad to be here for this moment.
Yeah, the only real
I'm sorry.
disappointment-
It is Margaret Carey, Kerry. You're right.
All right.
Crisis.
I'm starting to think she had a bigger role than you're bletting on air. Was she? I'll keep looking. You keep talking.
Say the only real disappointment was that John Rhys Davies was supposed to be there. He had to cancel just a few days before I had gotten a Sliders comic book signed by the Professor.
Yes.
Yeah. That was disappointing. That was the reason I was originally going to the show. Was I was like, when am I ever going to get an opportunity to see this dude again? So
right.
I've heard nothing but good things about him and how he treats fans. And he put out a little video before to apologize for not being able to make it. He was like, Cincinnati, if you'll have me, I will be back next year. Like he was just like, I'll make it up to you, I promise. It's like, dude, it's
so
right.
epic.
It's cool. Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't gathered, I'm a planner and a budgeter, and I had a couple days before I had to kind of budgeted out what I was able to spend and what I thought I might have to spend and what I could afford to spend. So I got my cash put together, and what I had budgeted I just put in my front pocket. Like I'm only gonna spend what's in my front pocket. And I had a little extra in my wallet, and I had an emergency stash in my bag just in case of emergencies.
It got crazy.
I saw something I couldn't live without. And I'm walking out through the parking lot as we leave, and I stick my hand in my pocket. I had a $20 bill left, so I'd burned through my whole wad of cash. I had a 20 left. I'm like, I came in under budget. I didn't have to touch my extra cash, so I was hyped. Went home, hit traffic on 71, exactly the place Seth and I did last year coming over from Cincinnati. We slowed to a crawl. We're starving to death because we hadn't had anything to eat.
All day.
There are no exits between. I forgot it's all just farmland between Cincinnati and Columbus, coming up 71. So there's no place to eat. However, I started on a quarter tank of gas, so I'm like getting dangerously close to eat. So it was a little bit more of an ordeal to get home, but we ended up finding a pretty good Mexican restaurant, had some food, and finally made it home about 9 p.m. So it was a good full day's trip.
It took us 5 hours to get from.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
What was the deal? Like, did you guys?
Well, part of that was
didn't see anything.
Yeah,
there was no crash. There was no anything.
We never knew what was the cause of the traffic, and I say it took us 5 hours. It did, but we also stopped and ate, and eventually, you know, but it took a crazy long time to get from Cincinnati to Columbus. So
ouch.
Yeah. But we had
everything I wanted to do, I did, and I enjoyed myself. So I'm glad I went. I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was fun. In the long run of it, it was a really good time, and I walked away with some signatures. I was pretty amped up about getting, got all I wanted. We mentioned Matt Wagner and those Green Arrow covers were just awesome on those issues. And then Bart Sears, that was really the one I wanted. I took a couple issues of Justice League Europe, #1, and to get signed. So I was happy to get those signed. I toyed with the idea of, if he had time, if he was doing sketches, about having him do one, but he was feeling sick that day. I think Jordan even asked him if he was doing anything, and he said no, he had too big of a headache going on.
I would have had him sign the Shield. He did that Captain America and the Falcon, and Jordan was like, no, the only #1 of Captain America Falcon in the Mid-Ohio Valley is in my hands, and I had to get it online. Stay home. It's like, okay, fine.
I mean, a true Cap fan would already own the issue. It was all right.
True story. I felt I was embarrassed, and I just went back in my hole.
Well, the funny thing was, the weekend or the day before, I think it was, I'd went up to Rinks, and there was a guy. Jordan had already been through this guy's comics, but I went up and I had a little bit of time, so I was going to go up and go through these comics. And I pulled out an old ratty copy of Captain America and Falcon, #199, and so I bought it. It was $1, and I had it in the truck. And I think I went to get my hair cut or something. And as I was coming out, Seth in our private messenger had put something about, hey, do you have any Captain America and Falcon #1 through 4? And I was like,
and you were like, I'm definitely not going to tell him about this because I don't want him to go to Cincinnati.
I was like, oh, you mean this one? And he's like, no. So yeah,
I think Cliff ended up getting more stuff signed than I did. You're falling into our
wow.
It's a trap.
Cliff.
It's a trap. So I got money to spend on action figures, and I'm getting all these books signed. What am I doing?
They're so cool.
I had messaged a friend of mine looking for a reason to go, and he's the guy. Told you guys, am I still muted? No. Okay.
No, you're fine.
He was the first time I ever heard of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was standing in his bedroom in the mid '80s or whatever, and whenever it was, and he had the first few issues. He was collecting it, just because his mom was such a collector of anything, and so he bought anything that was possibly collectible. So I had said something to him not too long ago. I was like, hey, you still got those comics? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, they might be worth something. He's like, oh yeah. And I was like, hey, I'll take one. Get a sign for you. Try. And he was like, well, they're at my mom's, which is here in Marietta. I was like, well, if you think she could find it, I would take it. She can't find anything. But ooh. They still exist, so I know where there's old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics and large G.I. Joe toys.
Yes. Yes. We're all still waiting on that.
Wow. I think about it every time I get together with you guys.
Lord forbid you stop over there and
I'm just
check it
absolutely frightened to do so. I'm
Why?
I'm just afraid. She's
going
to be like, she's going to see right through me.
On top of the Barbies.
That's just, she lifts the wall, throws me under there, puts the wall back down on top of me.
We'll never hear from you again.
Come on, I'll show you Jesse, and she pushes him down the stairs to the basement.
Hey, if I'm under the wall with the large aircraft carrier playing with GI Joes. I'll be fine.
That's
At least
fine.
for the
That's
next 3 days.
What a
until
way
I
to
die.
go. What a way to
See on
go.
the news, there's like a rash of kids born in the 80s that are gone missing in the Marietta area.
Right.
They get locked in their basement.
But their families all got letters that said, "It's okay. Let us go."
Oh, shoot.
All right. So one of the reasons this wasn't a huge show and didn't have a ton of celebrities was because it was the same weekend as New York Comic Con. So most of the big comic people were in New York on that same weekend. So I had a little bit of comic news to impart. We haven't talked comics in a while. First thing, not involving New York, but Diamond. It's been a while since they've changed their business and lost DC and lost Marvel and Image and IDW and Dark Horse. So it's been a while. I got an email that they are having a strategic consolidation of warehousing operations. So of their 2 big warehouses, they're closing one. And that's how they
That's some corporate speak right there.
Yeah. Are they Big Lots?
As part of its ongoing evaluation, Diamond has made the strategic decision to consolidate warehousing and delivery to improve overall efficiency by transitioning all shipping and receiving to the Olive Branch Distribution Center, phasing out regional drop points, and consolidating shipping carriers. So, yeah, they used to have 2 huge warehouses and just aren't moving. It's probably a smart move. I'm sure it's going to save them money and headaches, but they're not shipping quite as much as they used to. So they're closing.
Right.
They're closing one of their warehouses and spinning it as strategic.
Yeah, it's a good strategy.
Consolidation.
Check your local Ollie's. Coming soon.
All right, so the comic industry is healthy. All right, so New York, DC had a big presence there. They announced during the Jim Lee and Friends panel, Hush 2. Jim Lee is coming back with Jeff Loeb to do a sequel to Batman Hush, one of the most successful evergreen titles they've ever done. So it's going to be
exciting. It's excitement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the craziest
I'm hoping
thing
there's more Stratego in it, like there was in the first one.
You've twisted his.
You know that he is going. That I have done. You know that I'm going to claim that I had something to do with it.
That is my panel. That is my panel.
A board game in that series somewhere, I am totally taking credit for that.
Because he had a deadline, but he couldn't stop thinking about it, so he just kept drawing board games.
Oh, I can't wait.
So to me, the craziest thing is it's just going to be published in the pages of Batman. It's not its own separate. Normally, this would be its own separate mini series, or it's just one issue 158 or whatever of Batman, just like Hush was in the original. It was just part of the Batman story. So to me, that's pretty cool. I'm so cynical that he can keep a schedule and put these out on time, because Jim Lee's art is amazing, but not exactly.
Talk about my friend like that.
Right. So there's going to be a prelude in Justice League Unlimited #1, which is out at the end of November. It's going to have 4 pages, and it's not like the first 4 pages of the book. It's like 4 original pages that won't be in the. So if you want the first 4 pages, pick up Justice League, and then in 2025 we'll have Hush 2 and Batman.
You said Justice League Unlimited?
Justice League Unlimited.
You sparked up his ears with Justice League Unlimited. That's his jam.
Oh man!
So they basically killed off the Justice League during that last crisis, and now they're coming back, and it's going to be like the cartoon. Like everyone in the DC universe is in the Justice League, and just whatever mission requires them, you'll get whatever character to go. So it's going to be a huge rotating cast.
Who's writing that?
It's Mark Waid.
Oh, see, that's what somebody.
Yep.
Who's drawing it?
I think it's Dan Mora. I think they were doing the guys who are doing World's Finest. I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't quote me on that. They also announced the return of Vertigo. The Vertigo imprint got taken away several years ago for this Black Label thing, and everything that came out as Vertigo, like Preacher and Sandman, all these books were rebranded under the Black Label thing, and they kind of got away from being creator owned. So everything through Black Label was work for hire, and shockingly, you don't get people's best work when they don't own own the book. So that's what Vertigo was amazing. They got the best writers and artists on the planet to do Vertigo books back in the day. because they owned the characters and had input in all this stuff. So yeah, hopefully going back to that, because like all these people, if you want to do that, they go to Image and do their own thing. Why would they work for DC if they're not going to own?
Right.
So they can draw bat weenies.
We've learned you can't do that. So I have great nostalgia for Vertigo. So even if it is just an imprint or a logo on a book, I am super happy to have it back. Can't wait to see it. We had an announcement. They're doing Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2 this June.
Everybody add one versus. Versus who, Cliff?
Mothra.
Mothra's
versus Jesse who?
Charles Barkley.
Oh, I was going to say Charles.
I'm going Evil Ernie.
There you go.
Versus RoboCop.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, damn. What a story.
Yeah. So the first big crossover was a big success, and this one's going to be set in the Monsterverse as the super villains of the DCU attempt to weaponize the Titans against them.
Oh boy.
And again, last thing from DC, we just had the launch of all these Absolute books. We've had Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and next week's Absolute Superman. This is kind of a stripped down version of these characters. Bruce Wayne is not a billionaire. He doesn't have a butler. He doesn't have a mansion. Superman doesn't have a fortress. He's kind of a man alone, just walking the earth. Wonder Woman wasn't born on Paradise Island. She doesn't have sisters in the.
Doesn't have the mascara.
No tear or mascaras. So
No
these are
tear or
kind of.
mascaras.
This feels like a response to what's that criticism? Like, oh, Batman's a fascist. Batman's just a billionaire. He can do more with just his money. Like, this is sort of the stripping down all the excess stuff and just like, okay, what would be the core of these characters if they were just more grounded, more down to earth. So they've been pretty big. The first issues have sold out of everything, so pretty hot stuff. So that's kind of the DC's answer to Marvel's Ultimates line, basically. So Marvel, they have the separate continuity, younger, it makes the characters younger. Kind of a more grounded, realistic thing. So Ultimates has been around for about a year now. It's, again, still selling pretty well. They got Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Black Panther, and the Ultimates. And they just announced Ultimate Wolverine is coming out pretty soon. And they haven't quite announced what's going on, but the Wolverine is also the Winter Soldier. I don't know if it's Logan, I don't know if it's Bucky, but somehow the Wolverine has been turned into like an asset as like the Winter Soldier. So, let's see. And then the Marvel side of things, they announced Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. I saw some art for this. This looked amazing. Right around the time Born Again's going to launch on TV in the spring, Charles Soule and Steve McNiven are doing this Daredevil miniseries that looks super, super cool that I'm hyped for. And the big summer event will be One World Under Doom. It's going to kick off, written by Ryan North, who I love, and R.B. Silva are doing Rise of Emperor Doom. So again, we're having the Fantastic Four movie, we're having Dr. Doom, so we're putting him kind of front and center. On the end of this last Blood Hunt series, they couldn't quite save the day without Dr. Doom's help, so they let him Doctor Strange gave up the power of the Sorcerer Supreme, gave it to Doom. And he said, okay, but you have to swear that when the job's done, you'll give the power back. He's like, of course. I'm a man of my word. I'll do that. So they gave Doom the Sorcerer Supreme power. He saves the day. Like, good. All right, time to give it back. He's like, no, the job's not done. I got a lot more to do.
Oh.
Peace. So Doom is like, so now Doom's the most powerful being on Earth,
wow.
And things are gonna go down. So I'm excited to see that happen. It's gonna cross over into a bunch of different books. And last but not least in the comic world, we just had the DC versus Marvel Omnibus come out.
Yeah,
So this stuff has been out of print for literally decades. And so this is going back to the Spider-Man versus Superman, the Teen Titans versus the X-Men, that stuff from the 80s up through the 90s stuff, Batman and Punisher, Spider-Man and Batman and all these things, Superman and Green Lantern or Silver Surfer and all those fun crossovers.
Man, oh man. Great stuff
collected
right
into
there.
one volume, and then in December we're getting the Amalgam Omnibus, which will collect a 4-issue DC versus Marvel, where we did the voting to see who won. Then the Access miniseries that kind of tied everything together, and then all the Amalgam one-shot. So we're going to get 2 big omnibuses that'll collect all the Marvel DC crossover fun.
What a time to be alive. I mean, my gosh.
It's funny, Jesse, you had just mentioned like that Spider-Boy.
That was the reason why I put those out, was specifically because we knew the omnibus for the DC versus Marvel was coming out, and we were expecting the Amalgam one to do the same, but it ended up getting delayed, if I remember correctly. But anyway, go ahead, Cliff. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I was just gonna say I picked up over at Rink's Flea Market there in that, I don't know, I think last weekend I picked up a Spider-Boy #1 and a Doctor Strange Fate #1 out of right. I think I paid $1 for both out of a box of comics. So
Evan Bevins has been doing on his blog. He's been going through every single one of those issues and writing about what he sees and what's happening in those books. And I mean, one of the terms that he used is amalgamath, which is a great term. I wish I would have came up with that. Trying to figure out like who incorporates a character. Doctor Strange Fate, you can usually piece that one together. But there are some in those books where you just have no idea. You'll look at them and you're like, okay, I think I know who that is, but who in the world are they crossed over? The good thing is they got wikis out there that'll kind of help you, and we've had to turn to those a lot.
Because some of those characters were like they weren't just 2 characters. There were multiple.
Yeah, there were multiple ones. Yeah. Right. I mean, and again, this was a time period we didn't think we'd ever see anything reprinted because of, obviously, it's Marvel is such a titanic, IP, whatever. They're a big company affiliated with Disney, and Warner Brothers DC is their own separate thing. So you didn't think you'd ever see this stuff reprinted, and thank goodness it has. Jordan, you were want to say something?
Well, I was going to say, like, reading these back in the 90s when they were coming out, like, I was more of a Marvel kid and didn't know all the DC characters. So it was kind of an education of, like, wait, who are these Legion people and all these Green Lanterns? I don't. So it was like, you do your homework and learn who these characters are. So it was a cool mix-up. But, again, I don't know how long these will be in print, because like, I've heard the distributors already sold out of them. And I remember reading at one point they were only doing 1 printing of these things, so they might already be getting hard
back
to find
in the dark ages again.
Yeah, if people are gonna scalp them online for big bucks or who not. But I don't get it. Why can't I know? Like, back in the day, these companies, everybody worked for both companies. They played softball together. It was a friendly, they're the distinguished competition, but they were all friends. They all knew each other. It was a very small pond in New York. Again, now they're owned by these giant corporations. So why they can't work out reprinting this stuff, like especially like JLA Avengers is not included in this for whatever reason. That's not on the horizon to ever get reprinted. And it's like, I know you like money and people want this stuff. I don't understand why you can't figure it out.
We know you like money, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that should be enough to motivate.
This was a good first step, but again, like back during the pandemic, there was all this stress of retailers are having a hard time, the industry could be in trouble, the distributors are. What could help save the industry? What about the fans wanted a crossover, have Marvel and DC get together and do something huge? And it was just like, nah, we'd rather not. It's like, how can you not figure this out? I know you're, these, Wall Street behemoths, but like this shouldn't be that hard.
I don't know. I mean, you would hope that they would put egos aside, like, because it's already been done, guys. This is a piece of our history. It's already been done. Just put it back out there. You're not having to make a decision as to who wins. It's already been done. But I guess if you had a stake in the game and you don't want Lobo to lose the Wolverine now, even though it's a reprint, we don't want that to be seen. And I saw an interview today. It's so funny because watching Ash versus Evil Dead, something popped up on my YouTube where somebody asked the panel. They had an Ash versus Evil Dead panel. I think it was between season 1 and season 2, I believe. and they just asked like, "Hey, what about Ash versus Freddy versus Jason?" And Bruce Campbell he's like, "Yeah, let me tell you how that went." He's like, "I got a phone call from New Line Cinema that said, 'Hey, we want to do this.'" And Bruce is like, "That's great. Now Ash can actually finally beat Freddy and Jason." And he said it was just dead silence. And they're like, "Well, we can't have them lose to him." And he said it was just like the whole talk fell off, because they don't want their property to look bad. So I wonder if that plays a factor into it, because everybody's concerned. But of course, mega corporations and lawyers are probably another thing that probably factor into it too.
It's the Roger Rabbit movie thing, where Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny had to have equal screen time, and Daffy and Donald had to, do the same. They had to be on screen at exactly the same amount of time. So, right. Nobody gets a leg up or a second up or any of that.
No, it all, where you have to find that joy is in, independent publishers now, where that can possibly happen. Like, I feel like there's some, I've heard on a couple other podcasts, some people that are using like the public domain characters. As a matter of fact, I think this might be one of them. If I remember correctly, you are Jordan. You have a comic, but anyway, they're crossing over some of these characters and using them in these comic books. So you kind of get that crossover, at least, somewhat feel in some other books. But you're not. I don't know if you'll ever see it again in the big two. You just. I guess I'm happy with what we got. We got a reprint. We got an omnibus, which is great. I don't know if I'll ever. I don't know if I'll be able ever to afford it, and especially if scalpers are going to be involved now. I'll never see it. I'll hopefully catch it at an auction. Somebody's going to have to die, and I'll have to pick up.
I saw a real one in person today at
Did you really?
At Asylum Comics.
I did too. I saw one yesterday.
I'm going to have to get down there. I probably got like, I don't know, 20 issues of Absolute Carnage tie-ins I got to pick up.
This will have somebody's name on it, but I don't think it's yours. But that's the great thing. These comics always exist. They're in dollar bins out there, flea markets. Like, you can find them. You'll be able to rediscover them.
You could have been reading this whole time, but no.
That's what I love about comics. They're permanent. Okay, so unless anybody else has any comic news, we can shift gears.
Pretty much, yeah. I think I was going to say something. Cliff reminded me. Talking about you're talking about your DC things. You said something about Green Lantern. I've been meaning to tell you guys about, because we hadn't talked about the casting of the new Green Lantern show or whatever. Mm-hmm. What'd you guys think of that? Did you guys know who this guy is? That's playing Jon Stewart. I watched a movie on Netflix, which I recommend. It is good. It's got Don Johnson in it too. Oh. But when I saw this guy, it was the same week that they originally were talking about casting. I was like, well, there's your guy. That's going to be the guy. I knew it would be. And like 3 weeks later, they cast him as soon as I saw this movie. But I'd have to look at the guy's name. Let's see here.
Catch me up here real quick. This is a TV show?
Yeah, HBO is doing a show for Max.
It's going to have the guy from Friday Night Lights.
Mm-hmm. The coach.
I can't remember anybody's name.
He was
Kyle Chandler. He's going to be Hal Jordan, the grizzled old space cop. And then with his partner, Jon Stewart, is going to be this guy, Aaron Pierre, who was in this movie, Rebel Ridge, which is a excellent movie on Netflix. Definitely watch it. And the director of that movie is Jeremy Saulnier. I'm sure one of my favorite movies is Blue Ruin that he did. And he did, he also did a movie called Green Room. It's a really original idea. It's a punk rock band is in a secluded venue.
There's no vampires in that movie.
There isn't, but anyway, definitely watch Rebel Ridge. And this guy's
Believe me,
very well
Michael
cast.
Michael pitched that story, and I was like, "Have you ever seen Green Room?" He's like, "No, what's that?" I was like, "We're good.
Well,
we can't get sued."
Instead
Yeah,
of
no.
vampires, think of something else.
Yeah.
Like, but you have seen what's the Tarantino
Yeah.
Clooney movie?
Dust Till Dawn.
Dust Till Dawn.
Oh, yes, yes.
So Green Room meets Dust Till Dawn.
Yeah. That sounds good.
There you go.
Anyway, I think that casting's good. I like the idea of Kyle Chandler as the old Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. That should be good. This Aaron Pierre was good. Like,
yeah, he certainly looks the part, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've been trying to cast these characters forever now. And I hope it sticks, and because I could totally see it being great. So I hope so.
Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, is that right?
Yeah.
Am I reading that right?
In the Superman movie.
I like Nathan Fillion.
That's good.
So that'll be in the Superman movie, you said, though. That's not going to be in this series. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, as far as I didn't hear anything. I think I saw some casting news, but I didn't know any. I didn't know it was a series versus a TV show versus a movie.
Yeah.
So I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, they've leaked out some screen caps filming of the Superman movie, so we've kind of seen the look for Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner.
I think I've seen those.
Yeah, as far as costumes go, they looked pretty spot on except for Guy, and Guy is, it's definitely a different look than his traditional look, but we'll see, we'll see how it plays out, but I'm excited. Guy Gardner's a character in the comics that I certainly
well, he's got a personality.
Love to hate.
Right.
So But yeah, anything JLI related coming to life is always exciting for me. So the only thing I was going to bring up was Agatha.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care. I was just totally fine.
So just
once you get in TV, you go down a huge road.
Okay. Down that
TV road.
So. Yeah, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, the only other thing I really have is we got the conclusion to Agatha All Along. I'm not sure if we've really talked about it on the podcast at all. I don't believe so. So this was the Catherine Hahn, the second series in apparently a trilogy of WandaVision, Agatha, and then we'll have the Vision series after this. So yeah. So, but this was Agatha's thing. It had Aubrey Plaza in it, and I don't know what I mean. I think Jordan, you were kind of mixed on the series as a whole.
Yeah, I loved WandaVision.
Yeah,
and then I rewatched it before this. To kind of recap stuff. I was like, wow, there's a bunch of stuff that never really paid off or never really meshed. Or I still liked it, but I was like, I remember we talked every week. We dissected.
Well, it's in the zeitgeist. I would never rewatch it. That's probably a mistake.
It's definitely not bad, but there's a lot more stuff of like, oh wait, yeah, they barely just kind of let that hang, and just I don't know. I remember just loving it. It was like, okay, so I wasn't super hyped for this anyway. I was like, Agatha was a fun character. We all liked Agatha. It was Agatha all along. That was a good moment. Catherine Hahn's great. But it's like, do we really need this? As Disney has decided to kind of pull back and do fewer, we're not going to get, tons of seasons every year. It's like, is this the one is this the basket we need to put all these eggs in? So I just wasn't sure about it. And in that first episode, I dug. It had that HBO Agnes of Westview. It was like an HBO drama, like the whatever that one. What was the?
Yeah, it was fun.
True Detective.
True Detective, or the one with Law
and Order.
Our memories are great.
B for Vendetta.
Lady detective in a rainy place.
Lady detective in a rainy place.
That's the name of it. Yes, I remember it well.
Wow.
All those shows.
Okay.
All those
Sounds like an
shows.
original idea. You whispered
Rainy
up to Kevin
lady
Eastman.
I'm watching it. I'm going to set it up.
Kevin
right
Eastman,
now.
I have a
Kevin
great
Eastman
idea.
said, "What are you working on?" I was like,
A
"Rainy
lady
detective."
detective in a rainy place. Odin's not too happy about it, but
So I thought, okay,
no idea what you're doing.
there was an HBO show, won a bunch of Emmys. It was a sad
keep
lady
going.
detective.
Mayor of Easttown.
Mayor of Easttown. Yes.
I don't
this was
remember it
Agnes
raining, but that's a
of
great
Westview.
show.
It was
I love that
rainy.
I don't think so.
We've
I just
established
saw the
that.
commercial.
It never rained, but it was a great show.
So this, and it even had the thing said Agnes of Westview. The logo came out and it said based on the Danish series WandaVision. So like,
Uh-huh.
okay. So like, okay, Wanda was based on all these sitcoms we love. So is this going to be references to dramas and detective stuff? And it had a little bit of that, but I don't know that I wanted the show to be that for 9 episodes.
Yeah.
But it immediately goes to this whole, wandering the road with her coven and all this stuff. And then there's a bunch of dream sequences and strange. It lost me for a couple of episodes.
Oh.
I'm not into this at all.
I never started to watch one of these episodes that I didn't feel like I was doing this for the podcast. I mean, seriously, I was just like, I feel like I'm clocking in here to watch this. And there's moments I like, and I like the beats after looking back.
Mm-hmm.
But like watching some of it was just like, come on. This just feels like we're just doing it to do it. But
it
like,
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Have you watched it all, Jesse?
Not all of it. No, I've got.
Well, I mean,
to, like,
the ending it ends up good. Like where it ends, it's like, oh, wow. I wish I wasn't confused the whole freaking time, like not knowing what was going on. And then the last 2 or 3 episodes are like, hey, here's what all that was. It's like, okay, great. That's nice to know now, but I would have liked to enjoyed it earlier.
I had a much different experience. I really liked it. I wasn't into that first episode, all that drama, rainy woman stuff. But as soon as it turned into a musical, I was like, man, I am all in on this. This is a banger. I want to hear this song. And that's all it gave me was that song over and over and over. So I was happy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's fine. Watch the Penguin. Too grimy.
I don't want to get into the Penguin. Why are they so afraid of a comic book story being a comic book story? Why does it have to be so dark and
rainy?
Rainy.
That's Batman.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Gotham.
No.
It's Gotham. Get into Gotham. Get back into Gotham. Come on.
So
some good stuff in there.
I mean, it's fine, but it's not. It's not comic booky.
It's not about. Yeah, it's not about that.
Ugh.
I think they're doing a
comic
good job.
book stuff. Give me a Batman story with Batman in it.
No, come on. I'm sick of hearing that because this show needs Batman like it needs a hole in the head.
Hey,
like
if it doesn't have
good.
If it doesn't give me Batman's parents being murdered, then
then
what the hell are we doing?
That's all I want. Over and over.
8 episodes of rehashing the origin.
Yeah. I want every angle of it. Yes, every perspective. Come on.
First episode is nothing but Zorro. You're just watching the movie.
Yes, we're watching the movie.
It's the only way this.
I watch the full movie. I get my popcorn. I watch the full movie, Mask of Zorro, and then I come back. Yeah, I get shot.
Jesse, you've sat here all night. Do you have anything?
What'd you watch?
Do you have any TV?
We just had Halloween. What'd you watch?
Oh yeah, so we did just have Halloween. I mean, as far as TV goes, I've been making my way through. I mentioned Ash versus the Evil Dead, so I'm at the end of season 2, getting ready to start season 3, and we're going to be covering that on the Radishes and Broccoli Network here pretty soon.
I love that show. It might be better than the movies for me. Like it's so good.
So right now my daughter is actually watching spooky season. So she's trying to like find stuff to watch with her friends online. They do a little online watch party. So she's making her way through.
Well, they don't have room for a TV, I've heard.
No, they do not. She's actually doing an online watch party with her roommate. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so she's been watching all of the Halloween movies, and so she's at this point where she is getting into these old franchises from like the 70s and 80s and starting with them and going with them all the way through. And she's currently, I mean, I don't know how much Halloween you guys have ever watched. I don't watch many horror movies, and as far as like the slashers go,
Yeah,
Halloween's one of them. I think I may have watched like one or two. I remember H2O, and Kira had hit that one. I'm like, did you watch the one with Busta Rhymes? And she's like, oh yeah, I watched that one. Okay, all right. But anyway, so she's currently added to the second Rob Zombie Halloween, and she's like, I don't know if I can finish this thing. So I was like, oh man, it must be really bad. Anyway, point I'm trying to make is that I told her, I said, listen, when you're done with this, please start the Evil Dead franchise. Please watch. Well, I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one really takes off. I remember watching the first one and being traumatized, but the second one, I remember just having a great time watching that one. And of course, Army of Darkness is, that's top notch for me. I love that film. So, and then I was like, as soon as you do that, then I want you to hop into the 3 seasons of Ash versus Evil Dead, because I am having a blast doing that. I love the over the top blood and guts that happen in this show. And I mean, my goodness, I can't wait to start the season 3, just so I can say I knocked it off my list, because I stopped back in, I think it was 2017, getting into like the second season. So now I've got a purpose to talk about it with people on the podcast. So I'm making my way through there. But anyway, loved it. We got puppets in the second season, which was great. We talked about that a good bit, and just having a blast with that. Let's see, as far as like watching stuff with the wife, we've been watching a lot of like Hulu History Channel stuff, such as The Food That Built America.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of those. Yeah, they're good.
Oh,
Chocolate milk.
That's the food that built the starchers. We're going to put chocolate milk in cereal after this. That's essentially what we're going to be doing, which I do quite often. But anyway, so I think we're in like season 2 of that. Abbott Elementary's back. I don't know if you guys watch that at all. Very
good show.
Very, very big Office vibes in my opinion, but it's still fun to watch.
Before I forget, Cliff, did you ever watch The English Teacher? Any of the English Teacher?
I haven't watched anything of.
It's not, and I take it back. It's not The English Teacher. It's called English Teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Hulu.
I have not. I have not started
all bangers. You want a good soundtrack?
Oh,
you want a good soundtrack?
Yeah,
English Teacher.
Okay,
but it's good. It's a good show.
I was gonna say I've seen promos for it. I've almost started it, but I haven't yet. So I'll have to make a note of that. And let's see. I mean, we're talking TV. I know that much. Mm-hmm. I mean, with movies, Halloween and stuff like that. I sat down and watched a couple quick staples.
Yeah,
The Thing. Mm-hmm. Definitely watched. I was talking about Colton and how he was starting to appreciate like some horror films. We watched Cloverfield with him, and he, 11 years old, loved it. So I think it was last night. I said, "You ready to watch the sequel?" It's like, just be ready, because it is nothing like the first movie. But he sat down and watched it. He could not stand Jeff. Why did I say Jeff? Yeah, just Jeff Goodman. He could not stand his performance.
Hi, I'm John Goodman from St. Louis, Missouri.
And I was like, what are you talking about, man? That thing is fantastic. So we watched 10 Cloverfield Lane. And then tonight, just before I got on the podcast, we watched Fall. Have any of you seen Fall?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Have you seen 47 Meters Down?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Well, Essentially, it's 47 meters down, except it's 2,000 feet in the air. And I'm not.
It's a lot of math.
I need a conversion chart.
But literally, if you watch 47 meters down and then watch Fall, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because some of the same things happen in that movie. But anyway, it was, and the only reason I did that was because a buddy of mine said it was one of the scariest movies he'd ever watched. And I will tell you that it's essentially a couple friends scale this 2,000-foot tower, radio TV tower, and in order to say they're free climbers or whatever. Anyway, they get up to the top of this tower, and bad things happen. They get stuck. Well, my hands and my feet were like just sweating because of the anxiety I had watching the movie. As far as scares, it wasn't very scary. It was just really I told Mindy. I told Mindy, I said, I'm going to have a nightmare about this. I know that I am, because it affects you that much. You're going to have a dream that you're on top of something looking down, and you're afraid you're going to fall. So anyway, that's really all I had to say. That's all I've been doing. I don't know when I'm going to be back on here, so I got to talk about what I've been watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timely.
Hmm.
My last, if I get one recommendation, it's Matlock on CBS.
Have you finished Andy Griffith and moved to Matlock now, or is that how it was?
Yeah. I'm just not getting there. No, it's the new Matlock with Kathy Bates.
Oh,
Kathy Bates is Matlock.
I saw commercials that were like, "Don't tell the twist." I'm like, what could possibly be a huge secret about Matlock?
I don't want. I'm certainly. I am certainly not.
Lady.
I'm certainly not trying to blow it out of proportion here. Like it's some fantastic show. But if you like a procedural, like I'm just want to chill out. I don't need to I'm not watching The Penguin or, it's something intense. This is just exactly what you think it is for the most part, like the case of the week type thing. Yeah, it's Kathy Bates as Matlock. She's joining a law firm. It's got Jason Ritter and I don't think I really Beau Bridges.
Don Knotts.
No Don Knotts, but I wish. But it does have a twist. The end of the first episode, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was. And the end of the third, I just watched the fourth episode today because it dropped. I mean, that was immediately what I was going to watch. What was this? Because it's not what you think it is. It's not. I'm still, again, I don't want to blow out of proportion, but it's better. It has a little edge to it, and I liked the very end of the third episode. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, I wasn't expecting Matlock to say what she said, and so I'm into it. I'm going to watch it. I like it. It's not
good.
It's not something perfect or anything incredible, but it is a fun little thing. I like Kathy Bates, so it's pretty good.
Who did you know when you were younger that watched the original Matlock?
My mom. I watched plenty of the original Matlock.
Oh yeah, I remember watching Matlock.
My mom gave any figuring anything out, any type of movie or case or trying to figure out a piece, something we were watching. That was my mom, and I loved to watch. We would watch all kind of Perry Mason when I was growing up. Like,
yeah,
it's like all that stuff. Scene. Like, yeah.
Man, yeah, that's awesome. Because I can remember, the original Matlock. When I think of that, I think of my my wife's grandmother. She, we'd go over and visit her, and Matlock was probably in reruns at that point.
Yeah.
But she had it on, and Good stuff.
Right. If you get, 3 episodes, I think if you watch 3 episodes, you really get the full thing. You get to that last moment of the 3rd episode, and you're either in or out. I am in. It's just a nice little. It doesn't take too much thinking, but
I'll take your recommendation. Me and the wife are always looking for something to watch.
Yeah,
I get that. I said there's way too much TV that requires investing.
yeah.
Most TVs are now like 12-hour movies that you have to watch every second of every.
That's
season.
what I like about it. It's like it is. It is one overarching story for sure, but a little more than your normal procedure. But it's still nice and easy to follow. It's not. I'm not trying to look for theme here.
You kind of use that as an insult, like, oh, it's just a procedural, it's just episodic. Yeah. But it's like, no, that's cool. Like, I miss that.
Yeah. Yep, it's good.
Another one I remember just real quick. I want to see if either of you guys watch it. Ghosts. Have you been watching Ghosts at all?
No.
Oh man,
I know what it is. Guy's got an arrow through his head.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm
telling you right now,
all the way there.
That's
it is pretty bold.
It is a 25-minute comedy. All right, just a sitcom type show, but it's actually decent. It's got a good premise behind it, in my opinion.
It's good.
Everybody dies on this anybody who dies on this property becomes a ghost. So people have died. Obviously, your dude with the arrow through the neck, he died on the property. Well, you also have people like a Native American died on the property. So they've been around for thousands of years watching other people like die on this property and live on this property. And it becomes really good. There's a lot of there's a good lore to it. So I would suggest if you give it a chance.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right.
Let me get through Matlock.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take away from your Matlock time.
And Tracker. I also watch Tracker.
Oh, Tracker. Okay. The wife loves the Tracker. She loves Tracker.
Oh, she does? She likes Tracker?
She's
going to love Matlock.
Perfect.
Oh, can't believe I just said that. This is I'm getting old.
This Generation X millennial border that we're on.
Yeah.
Right.
We're weird.
Just embrace it. Just embrace it.
Because we grew up with all this old stuff that we still love. And then we've been around for all this new stuff. And we
already got all of our stuff remade from when we were younger. Now let's get all the old stuff remade from when our parents were.
Yep.
Right.
And now all the stuff we watched growing up is on Nick at Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Friends is on reruns of Nickelodeon. It's like, what is happening? All right. KPP has done it again. Another episode.
We did it.
Jesse, start your plug away.
All right. Yeah. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, go check out the Source Material Comics podcast. Should be able to plug that into any podcatcher out there. We do Source Material Comics podcast, which talks about comics of any era. And then we have the Unspoken Issues podcast on there. It talks about 90s comics usually. And then we have the Snap Material podcast where myself and Evan Bevins get together and talk about Marvel.
This guy has 3 solid podcasts going at all times.
3 of them.
All times. So, we can barely string this sucker together.
Right, I know.
The only thing that saved this one is Cliff sent out a bracket idea the other day. Saved it by the skin of his teeth. That's why you may have never seen us again.
But yeah, that's it. Hey, just check that out. Throw that in Source Material Comics podcast into any podcatcher and YouTube. I just uploaded a ton of episodes to YouTube. I'm talking like over 300, I believe. So,
oh my Lord.
All I did was just type in the RSS feed and it grabbed it. So I didn't really have to do a whole bunch.
Okay. You didn't have to crank anything.
No. I pushed a button and it all happened. Thank goodness. This technology is amazing. But yeah, you can check out the podcast on YouTube as well. I'm getting followers. People finding the podcast. I'm like, wow, I've gone up like 10 followers since I did it.
Teach us.
Did you bring any of them with you?
I'm afraid not.
See at the bottom of my screen, it says AI companion. That's how
every single one of my friends are that, actually. It says AI companion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So anyway, thanks for having me on, guys. Awesome. I had a lot of fun.
You're welcome anytime. Except for when we do secret brackets, we don't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not. I want to press you guys for this information, but I'm not going to because I'm. I do want to be surprised.
This is for you to listen to. This one's for you to listen to on triple speed.
I absorb it so well.
Recommendation. I clicked on the our 420 episode.
Oh yeah.
And I clicked it down to 0.75 speed.
Oh, so we sound stoned.
And we're all like, about.
Hey, man.
So if you got the time, you're just kicking back. Listen to episode 420 at 3/4 speed.
Yeah.
You'll dig.
Brilliant.
It's a good
Brilliant.
Good tip.
All right, that's it. We're done. Good night. Goodbye. We'll see you soon. Happy Thanksgiving. My name's Jordan.
Cliff Bart.
Yep. I'm Seth. Bye forever.
Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Sounds, music, and clips played during the podcast are property of copyright holders. All original content is property of www.udownwithkpp.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment. Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast, can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. You can connect with us through social media on Facebook, YouTube, at the Ka-Pow Podcast on Twitter, or email the show, Ka-Pow, the pop cultured podcast at gmail.com. If you really want to go the extra mile, join our Patreon at patreon.com/udownwithkpp for special content and access to Patreon-only benefits. We are grateful for anyone who chooses to contribute, but please know that most of our content will remain free. So please continue to like, comment, and share.